Hi everyone, I'm back with Be About the Topics, and I just want to thank those of you who responded and watched my video. Please share with others who you feel might find this video informative.
See, I want to start with my fibroids journey. And it started when I was 25. When I was 25, I went to my OBGYN and she said, "Oh, you have fibroids. They're about the size of golf balls, but I wouldn't worry about them." And at that time, I hadn't heard about fibroids or knew what fibroids was about. And I might have did a little research, but not much, right? But she told me, don't worry about it. So I never worried about it. So fast forward about 5 years or so, 5, 6, 7 years, I'm in my 30s, and I started having pain. I had already had bad periods growing up. I used to take like Motrin 1000s, and I would have to stay home from school because of the cramps, but I never knew fibroids was the underlying issue. So, about in my 30s, I started having pains, and it was serious pain, serious bleeding. And my gynecologist at the time, I actually started living a vegetarian vegan life. I was eating a lot of foods with soy in it because I was doing the vegetarian route. Went to my gynecologist, and she talked about soy being high in estrogen, and estrogen, your fibroids feed off estrogen. So I immediately had to give up soy, and I loved edamames and things of that nature. And I was like, okay, I have to stop because they were growing and it looked like I was pregnant. I gained weight. I was just feeling sluggish. I was having heavy periods and it was very painful. And I tried the vaginal steam. I tried different holistic things that grew my fibroids. That did not help. Okay. And I'm saying this disclaimer is this is what didn't work for me, what did work for me. So it might be different for you all, right? I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not able to give medical advice in that way, but just sharing with you my story. I had and so my gynecologist wanted to put me on birth control pills, but I didn't want to take hormones, right? I didn't want to get on anything with hormones. And so I was like, no, I'll just deal with it. I'm a high pain tolerance, so I said I'll deal with it. Then she said it was getting worse. One was like the size of a grapefruit. I went to go get a MRI, ultrasound, all that. And they said, no, you have some huge fibroids. And in fact, it was causing back pain. I was having like sciatic type pain. And for those of you that know about that, whew, that's a lot, right? So they sent me to a specialist and who dealt with removing fibroids, the myomectomy. But let me put something here. I want to say make sure I told you later on in my pregnancy, my husband was a great advocate for me. But before I met my husband, I was advocating for myself, not as hard as he did for me, but I was advocating for myself. And when I say that because of this. I was 33 years old. I remember going to the emergency because the pain was so bad that the doctor at the time was a man. He said, just have a hysterectomy. And I'm thinking, when you know nothing about me, I think he knew I didn't have children. He might have asked or something. And so to tell a woman who's 33 to have a hysterectomy, like why skip through removing fibroids, just have a hysterectomy is very rude, very condescending. And I was so livid. And had I just listened to doctors blindlessly, which I don't, I would have just said, oh, okay, if that's going to get rid of my pain, let's do it. And I'm glad I did not, right? So make sure if you want, and no judgment on anyone. I don't judge anyone in that way, right? I respect a woman and in terms of their bodies, our bodies, what we want to do with our bodies, right? But all I want to say is make sure you get all the facts before you make, if you decide. I know some women who did end up getting hysterectomies and living life and, without all the pain and that, but they had children and didn't want any more children. Like they knew all the ramifications of what they were doing. So I just want to say, make sure you advocate, really advocate for yourself. I'm going to stop here and I'll finish. I'll continue in the next video.